Remember the last time we were here for your bachelorette party at this cathedral?
Remember it. I think about it all the time. It was such a special day. It was so
Oh,
spiritual.
I know it was. It really was.
It's so cool that you thought to come here. Okay, change. Cathedral, right? What are we doing here? I mean, we've already been here.
I mean, we did this thing a long time ago. That was like, we don't even talk about '06.
We do not talk about '06. No, we do not.
This is Improv in Real Life. I'm Treder-Wolff. I've worked in mental health for 40 years, and in that time, the world has changed completely. Technology has transformed how we communicate, connect, even how we work. But in our relationships, change doesn't happen that fast. That's where improv comes in. Improvisers learn to create together without a plan, and they do that by learning a set of skills. Anyone can learn these skills, and they translate directly to life. In this podcast, we'll explore how improv can help us navigate the speed of life. And together, we'll explore how to face change with creativity, agility, and a sense of play. I imagine most of you can relate to something like this. You're sitting in a work meeting, and the people there have the power to cut your funding, to limit your freedom to do the job the way you want to do it. Or you're with a loved one, and they're saying something that you deeply disagree with. But to be honest about how you feel risks something in that relationship. Well, improv is a way to deal with that tension, to preserve what's good about the relationship, what's working, and at the same time, honor your own authenticity and integrity. To live with that complexity in real life is a very essential skill. And improv is a way to approach it, to play with it, because we're using comedy and creativity to kind of come at it from different angles. My conversation today with Kathy Klotz-Guest of keepingithuman.com gets into this, of how improv is a way to work those muscles of speaking our truth and also preserving goodwill. I hope you enjoy. This podcast is brought to you by LifeStage. LifeStage provides opportunities for people to gain skills and knowledge for navigating today's uncertain world. The capacity for creativity, connection to new ideas and other people, collaboration, and community building. For more information, visit lifestage.me.
I'm so excited to welcome my guest today because it's in her name, Kathy Klotz-Guest. She is an applied improviser that I first encountered in real life at the Applied Improv Network conference in Austin in something like 2015, where she gave a 10-minute talk, and she really rallied that group to believe in themselves and to believe that improv is a way to double down on believing in yourself. And I want her to talk about that today because that's why she's here. Welcome, Kathy Klotz-Guest, to the podcast.
Thanks, dude. It's good to be here.
So, Kathy, the idea that improv can be a way to say yes to yourself, which is not something that is explored often, because often the yes and is designed for connecting to other people's ideas and so on. And you're bringing this back to affirm yourself. So tell me more about that idea.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I came up in improv at the same time. My day job was in tech, as a woman in tech in Silicon Valley, with all that entails, and then comedy at night. And one of the things that I realized is that we're so focused on yes and making your partner look good. And that's incredibly important. And I felt like if we're serving everybody else at the expense of ourselves and what we need, it felt like, to me, I could see where people were suppressing their own desires or first instincts because they were like, well, that's not good enough. I have to do what they want to do. And I saw that over and over again. And I thought, that's how a lot of us are trained to just show up in life, to suppress what we want, please everybody else for their comfort. And I thought, that's a very interesting thing. And I think it shows up in a lot of ways that some of us, people of color, women, LGBTQ folks, all the intersection of those buckets, tend to show up because that's how we're trained. So I thought, that's interesting. Why am I doing that? So I sort of started peeling back the onion there.
So tell me more about how you peel back the onion using improv itself, using the principles of improv.
Yeah. For me, a lot of it was, if we're gonna make our partner look good, well, the best way to make our partner look good is to be confident in the offer that we're making and feel good about that. And I felt like the more that I stopped worrying about the perfect offer or the perfect endowment or whatever that was, and yes, making them look good, but having fun and making myself feel good, I felt like I was upping my game. I was showing up differently. And so I started realizing over time that, what if I was just more confident and I let go and I was like, okay, I hear you and I will yes and you, but I'm going to yes and myself too. So that your offer I will accept. Okay, you endowed me as a mom and I came on stage as a werewolf, but I'm not letting go of that because I'm a werewolf. I already said I was a werewolf. So I'll be a werewolf mom, but I'm not oring and just going with your idea. We're going to do this. We're going to mesh these two up and I'm going to have more fun. And then I'm more available and I'm showing up differently in the scene because I'm having more fun. And it was really just over time of, being endowed. You can only be endowed, Jude, and you know this as a girlfriend or a wife so many times before you're like, really? What about a werewolf or a werewolf pilot or like a CEO like monster or like what is happening? Why can't I be an eccentric billionaire?
Okay, so in action, and I want to say this for the people who are listening that are not improvisers, because there's a lot of ways in which people who do improvise understand the word endow and the word and some of those concepts. They're just not that familiar to people that don't improvise, but are interested in the way that improv applies to real life. So I would explain to people listening that are not improvisers that the word endow means that I would say to Kathy, hey, Mr. Billionaire, I would like some of your money. And now you know that you're a billionaire, but let's say that you had decided that you were a tired cab driver. So now you come into the scene, you're a tired cab driver, and I say, hey, billionaire, I would like some of your money. So endowing means you're giving the other character in a scene an identity. And so what you started out saying is that often what will happen, and I know this as a person who's older than almost everybody that I improvise with, almost everybody I improvise with are my children. No, I'm just kidding. No, they could be my children or my grandchildren for real. And so when I first would encounter people sometimes, their instinct is to say, put me as the mom, the mother-in-law. I think it's a natural human shorthand that I don't think is meant in any way to diminish. It comes out of anxiety in some way. It comes out of like the first thing that comes to mind. So there is a piece of that, which as a person who tends to maybe get pigeonholed into certain kinds of roles in improv scenes. Now, we're not talking about real life here. We're talking about improv scenes. It is fun to then mix it up a little bit. And I call that being subversive. Like I'm going to be the subversive mother-in-law who's also a spy or, or something.
Yes. And if we're a mother-in-law, and there's no harm, no foul, that's the first thing that comes to mind. First cut, best cut. We say in improv, which means don't put an offer out and then back off. If you put an offer out there, double down on it. Really commit to it. So if you say mother-in-law, yeah, mother-in-law. And if somebody gives you that, you're a mother-in-law, no harm, no foul. Find out what's fun for you. Be the werewolf, be the monster, be the cab driver, be the entrepreneur, I'm going to be the mother-in-law, but I'm also going to be the mad scientist mother-in-law. And I'm conducting experiments in the basement. And so give yourself something and don't let go of that. If you had an idea, you can say yes to that other person and make sure you get what you need, whatever that is.
So how might you do this if you were doing a workshop with people that were non-improvisers, like a corporate workshop, say? What's a game you might do that would demonstrate this idea of this tension between what someone else is kind of assigning to you and at the same time holding on to your own course idea or self? Is there a way that something you might do with folks that just don't know what even improv is?
Sure. And one of the things I like to do is play like last line double down.
Can we do that together, you and me?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
set me up and then I'll play with you.
All right. All right. So the dead body is in the trunk, just as you asked. I've endowed you as something. I said, all right, we're working together in cahoots. There's a dead body in the trunk. You might say, I got it. Well, you know what? That hit was justified. And I'll give you payment, but the payment's going to be in chocolate and your firstborn. So I might go a few layers deep.
So I think what you're saying is you're going to give me a setup line and that whatever that means to me, I get to do it and then do another line that doubles down on it.
That is correct.
That right?
However you interpret it, yes. So if I make you an offer, or I might say, you know what? I know that as a monster, I'm not supposed to say this, Mom, but I'm vegan. I'm vegan. I don't want brains.
You know this family feeds on brains, and you know that your dad makes his money selling brains. Our brains are valued all over town. I can't have people hearing that you're vegan.
It's a good point. I never thought about that. Maybe we could try selling other things in addition to brains, but maybe like make brains out of candy. Oh, like candy brains.
Sweetheart, I know how much you love candy, and I guess, okay, you're in a rebellious phase. You don't want to eat the brains. You're against the brains now, but someday you may embrace brains like your family does. And if the word gets out that you're a vegan eating candy lover, I don't know how I'm going to show up at the butcher.
I know, and you're a brain scientist and the best one in town.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
We study the brains and then we eat them because we don't waste.
No, we don't. We don't. And you're a brilliant scientist. And if you say brains are important in our family, then all right, I'm gonna try to eat brains. I'm also gonna eat, no meat on other days, but I'll eat some brains too.
Sweetheart, you will not regret this. Okay, scene.
And it gets silly, but what I love is that when we do a couple different offers and go deep, we're less likely to back off it. And sometimes we make tentative choices, and I see that a lot where we're just uncertain about it. And I think the more that we just double down, and make those couple offers, but go a couple lines deep, now we've doubled down on it. And I think the other person can be like, all right, they've said this is what it is, and that's what it is. And if you're not feeling like you're getting your needs met, and if, Jude decided she was also like a beauty queen in brain pageants, then she's a beauty queen in brain pageants, whatever she does. And there is no second guessing because she's gone deep on it. Now we're in deep. And the only way is to just yes and your own idea.
So tell me about how this applies to personal growth in your mind, like how this applies to somebody in their real life. So if we play, because I teach improv to people that are not going to go on stage and do this. Like they're doing this because they want to learn. And sometimes they do end up performing for fun. But their deal is they want to use improv to be more alive, more dynamic, more expanded in themselves, more creative. So suppose we did this exercise and now let's talk about your idea of how might this help a person become more authentic or whatever personal growth side of this you see.
Yeah, usually I find is that people will back off their idea or they'll drop it. If somebody else in the scene is a little bit more dominant or has the idea and talks over them. And I think the way it plays out in a lot of their lives is like, okay, you put an offer out there, maybe it didn't get heard, it didn't get picked up. A lot of times the tendency might be to let it go.
So you mean an offer meeting in real life, like saying to somebody that you love, let's do something together.
Yes.
Or saying to your kids, you need to get your work done or something. Anything in a real life relationship, right?
Everything is an offer. Maybe I say, hey, I have an idea for what the product could be in the third quarter, but it gets talked over. So you could be in a meeting and it happens. There's a lot of chaos. It's also important that whether it's in a conversation at work, conversation with your partner, with your kids, that we are also not dropping what we need. And it's very easy in improv because we're taught to yes and the other person, as we should, as we should. We have more fun, we're more invested, we're emotionally available and there for ourselves when we're having fun and we're feeling like we have yes anded ourselves. And it is something I notice, the energy gets very different when people feel like they are truly part of the scene rather than just playing with a dominating partner or, in a meeting where they're talked over. This happens a lot to women in tech.
I'm sure. So
in life.
A quick example, I'm sure, yes. And in a lot of fields, and I think it's partly conditioning too, that, it's sort of it's an unfortunately a norm that we're constantly having to kind of break by, like you're saying, know what we want and express it. And of course, the more creative we are about the way we're expressing it, the more inroads we might make, into cemented thinking.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about applications of what you're saying. And I think that when people start the early classes or early experiences with improv, emphasize so much the yes. And I always explain that to people by saying, we're all here filled with a certain level of anxiety and a certain layer of defensiveness just because we're uncomfortable and awkward and we don't know what's going to happen. And I want you to know you're safe with me. I'm going to make sure that this all is a positive, uplifting experience for you, but you don't yet know that. So in order for us to build psychological safety, we're going to do a lot of hard yes to each other. Then when people get a little bit more warmed up to the whole idea, it is often hard for improvisers, I have found, and this is where I'm just connecting with what you're saying and how real life applications. It is hard for people to play characters that are in conflict with each other, because that's how they'll experience it. They'll experience it like, well, you said not to fight, or you said not to be in conflict. And I think what you're saying, and the way I guess I teach it, is characters can have very different perspectives or very different points of view and have a really interesting conversation or scene, but everybody really believes in what they're saying. So I'm wondering if you would do a game with me along those lines, that people might, hey, you guys can play this at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So in this exercise, this is how it goes. So I'm going to ask you for a favor, not you to Kathy, but a character that I will become, and I will endow you with a name of some kind so that you're not you, right? Although you're free to double down on your own philosophy about this. And you're going to be not willing to do this for me. Your answer is basically no. And I'm not going to be like so happy with that. Of course, I want it, but I care about you. And every time you say no, you have to add more to your philosophy of why you're not going to do this for me. So you have to, it's not about me, it's about how you really feel and why no is the appropriate answer for you. And you deepen your philosophy about it as we go. Larry, I have something I really would like to ask you to do for me if you're willing to hear me out.
Yeah, I'm always willing to hear you out.
You are willing to hear me out. All right. It's not easy for me to ask this. I've written a first draft of a manuscript, and I need to run it by somebody that is smart and knows good writing and can be honest with me. Is this something that I should share with anybody else, with the world? I just wonder if you would, I'll take you out to dinner. If you would just take a look at my manuscript and tell me honestly what you think.
You know, Rose, I love doing anything for you, anything. This comes at a really bad time for me. And I know you want honesty. And last time I gave you honesty, I don't know. I felt like maybe that was a little too much.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And I processed it, and it changed me on the inside. It changed me. And I thought nobody but Larry can do that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here with you asking this now.
Rose, I hear you, and I love that you're asking me. It is so amazing. It's an honor that you're asking me. And I just don't want it to get in the way of our friendship if I'm too real about it. And you're like, all right, that's too real, Larry, stop.
You might be too real. And that's your fear, is that you'll be too real. And of course, even if, okay, sometimes I do have a thin skin, especially about my writing. I know that, but that's why I value you, because I know that you won't do it to hurt me. You would do it to help me.
I want to help you. You know I do. I just want to make sure that you're not hurt if I give you feedback you don't like. Because remember the last draft of the last book, and you didn't want to go that way. And I totally respect that. I respect you. So I'm not saying no to you. I just value what we have. So maybe it's better to talk to somebody else, Rose, and then I can give you some feedback after that.
I was going to take you out to a really great dinner scene. Thank you, Kathy. That. So I really did get your philosophy. I got it. I got your philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hard.
It is hard. It is hard
to say no to.
It is. And we are taught to say yes, yes, yes. And I think there's so much pressure then to acquiesce and then find the rhythm and yes, and. Yet we can actually be in a yes, and situation by hearing the other person, what they need, and still sticking to what we want. It doesn't have to be high conflict. And I think too often we might be tempted to just yes and, which is okay in a scene if it's clear why and the change makes sense and what would, precipitate that change. But I think sometimes I see strong characters start out in scenes and then they're so quick to abandon it. And I think if there's a reason for that, okay. Well, we also want to see that character, why do they want what they want? What's at stake for them? And now I want to see them double down. And that's when it gets fun, when we just don't abandon it so quickly because of pressure. And I think sometimes I see that. I see it in meetings. I see it. We want that stasis. We want that no conflict stasis, but conflict doesn't have to be bad. And I think that's the thing, right? We're
That's
so
why I like our little scene that we just did.
yeah.
There's definitely conflict, but it isn't bad. It's just
Oh.
real. It's human. But I have a thought about this, about why there's this reluctance often to hold on to your deal in the face of other perspectives and things that come in. It's
Yeah.
because once you really, like, once each of our characters say, you have your position, you're not budging, I still have my want, I'm not budging, I still want it. At a point, we're really going to get to a place of unknown where we don't know what these two people would do if it really sticks. Like, no one's giving in. And in scenes, in improv scenes, people will give in because it's known. It's like, okay, this is too tense. I don't know what's going to happen. And it's just so much terror because they're improvising. But that actually happens in real life too, that we'll sort of surrender because to go further will create a tension that we are not sure. And I know I don't like it there, but I also know we need it. We need it for change, right? How could anything change if we don't tolerate that tension?
Yes. And that is such a beautiful point. And I love it because without that tension, it's not clear why that character has that arc of change. Why did they change? And I think we're so quick to want to get rid of the discomfort. And that happens in real life. It happens in our relationships, our meetings. At the slightest tension, we feel like, oh God, conflict. And I really don't think we need to see conflict as bad because that's when two characters understand each other. And maybe Rose and Larry realize that, maybe they are lovers, maybe there's sexual tension, maybe there's just heartache between them, maybe there's some other relationship they value, but there could be something beautiful. And that tension speaks to a respect or a prior relationship or something else that's happening. And it's okay to sit with that discomfort, that silent tension, and even it could be silent tension. And that tension can build a scene, and we don't have to run from it. And I think that's where, even just like in a meeting where you've said something and the other person's very quiet, they're taking it in, and you've said maybe a number, you're negotiating. We're so quick to just be uncomfortable with the, oh my God, I blew it, that we want to break that silence. And I'm asking people to just yes and yourself and let it be. Let it sit. Just let it sit.
Well, I think what you're also teaching people through improv, if we can frame it this way, and it's a wonderful gift to do applied improv in a world like that, is here's a way to do this, like the conversation between these two characters. Here's a way to do this that feels okay. You don't have to give people exactly what they want. And you may be not popular with them at that moment. There may be a dynamic that needs to be, or a boundary that actually is now being stated. For example, your character is saying, when I gave you my opinion, it hurt you, and I don't want to go through that again. And I would add to it, and I don't want that to affect our future, whatever that may be. And of course, my character's hearing that like, oh, that's right, shoot. As the improviser, I was like, oh, my character is thin-skinned. So there's a lot of truth that comes out about dynamics between people that I think improv is a wonderful way to play with those things and make them just very accessible. Like, this is okay.
Yes, tension is always okay, and it doesn't have to be argumentative. I think we conflate conflict with argument, and it does not have to be. Our relationships are always in flux with people, and sometimes tension is necessary to get to the understanding. And then
it absolutely is. It'll get to a deeper understanding.
Yes. And I want to see people not give up who they are and what they value so quickly. Because if your character starts out with a strong moral ethic, for example, in a scene, there's got to be a reason for that person to then change. That transformation has to come from something and make sense. So think of that tension as just deepening the relationship and the understanding versus argumentation or fueled by any kind of animus. It doesn't have to be that. And I think that's true in any relationship. And sometimes, one of my favorite things to do is to stick to my guns and also yes and the other person when they're funny, like, well, you hurt my feelings last time, Larry. And I'd be like, yeah, I was a jerk to you. And I still value our relationship. And I'm afraid I'll be a jerk again. And I don't want to do that. So I can still honor you and be like, that's why I don't want to do this, because I'm a jerk. So they're not mutually exclusive. And that's really important. I'm going to yes and what you put out there and stick to what I value. And I really see this as incredibly value in our relationships, not losing who we are.
I wonder if you have another exercise or one that deals with what you just, well, whatever you have next that you've thought about, but I like your reference there to like moral positions or things like that. But whatever you have in mind that would take our discussion to an action level.
Well, there's two other activities. We'll see how far we get. One activity I really love is called the worst idea possible, because I think we're improvisers and people starting out new in improv. And believe me, when I was new, I did this, is we get in our head and we overthink. So we're just like, okay, I have to yes and that's a bad idea. And we're judging our own idea. And so I really love to go fast. And then I think we do an end run around the mental sensor. So I like worst idea possible. So like we're in a meeting, it can be whatever, wherever you want it to be. But suppose we're in a scene in a meeting. And I'm like, all right, Jude, we're $5 million in the hole in our advertising agency. So let's figure out how to get out of that hole. And you can't second guess yourself. I want bad ideas. So you don't have to worry about making them good. Just give the worst idea possible. So there's no end run around that.
Oh, well, the worst idea for us as an advertising company would be to take out a big billboard and announce how in debt we are.
We should totally do that. And I think we should take bribes. I think we should announce that we're available to take bribes, political bribes.
Yeah,
Just
I love that.
Highest bidder.
Take the bribes and then, I don't know, just hear me out. Put that on a billboard, like spend their money saying we took bribes from these people and we're proud of it.
And we're proud of it. So here's the thing. You can't like blackmail us because we've outed ourselves. We are dirty. We play dirty and we want your dirty money today.
We took your dirty money and full page ad in the New York Times, every single name in bold. You can't hurt us. We hurt ourselves.
We are way ahead of you. Anything you can do to hurt us, we already did it. So
we did it.
We're beyond reproach. Nothing is too dirty for us. Dirty deeds done cheap, dirt cheap. We are there. AC/DC wrote a song about us.
Those are some ideas that suck.
They suck. And that's such a beautiful thing to me, because I think part of why we don't yes and ourselves is the saboteur of like, that's a dumb idea. I don't like that idea. That sounds stupid. And okay, fine. Let's make a scene of the worst possible ideas. Then don't censor yourself. If you have a bad idea and you think it's bad, blurt it out. There is no shame or blame or like, okay, I didn't do a good job and my idea is not worthy. Or do a scene of it. I like to do the saboteur where the saboteur is the character. This is a bad idea. And I want you to say every bad idea that thought you have to yourself. Inner monologue is out. About anything.
About anything. I'm just going to give ideas and you can sabotage them.
And I'll sabotage. I'm sabotaging my ideas with you. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just going to do ideas and you mess with them. All right. So I really, really have to get more organic groceries today.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I should eat organic. I really don't eat organic enough. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Why are my ideas just not great? Why?
Oh.
Why are they not great? Yours are always great.
And I should plan my trip so that I drive more economically, like make my stop so I don't use extra gas. Just, be more efficient.
You know what? You could get an EV. why did I say that? They don't even have rebates anymore. What are you thinking? Why did you say that? That's so silly that you said that, Kathy. They don't even offer them. See, and it's so goofy. And then you hear yourself and you go, imagine you're talking to that way to yourself. What if that was a character in a scene? Do you hear that?
Well, you're like reading my journal out loud right now.
Is that, do you hear that? And I think what that does is, I think if we heighten the worst possible thing that we say to ourselves and we start to see it out there in the world, we go, oh, yeah, that's really bad. So why am I saying that to myself? So why is it okay? Not, it's not okay to put it out there, but I can have this inner monologue. What is that? And like you see how it derails everything, and we all do it. And I know that we wrestle with that. And the first thing I like to say to people is, all right, we all have that. You see how silly it is. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to catch that saboteur. We're just not going to listen to it. Whatever that idea, that first gut, best gut, we're going to go with that. And even if you're second guessing yourself because you're new, that's okay. We don't have to say it and back off our idea. So we're going to work to silence that, because yeah, we would never put up with that. If somebody was doing that in a scene, we'd be like, what is wrong? What is happening? But that's how we sound sometimes when we're unsure, uncertain, or maybe just we're struggling with, is my idea good enough? And sometimes the stupidest ideas are the most brilliant ones. Get it out there.
I think that's a hard practice, and
It
improv is a wonderful approach, I think. Experience.
Yeah.
So improv is a wonderful experience when you say, like, letting the first thing that comes to you, or, well, to stop the overthinking. But I do think that people struggle with that in the improv space. So a lot of games that move quickly, where you just say the first word that comes to mind, help with that. The editor just doesn't have time to get in there. I just wonder, I just want to throw this out there. So I would love to do, and I often do this with people who are starting to realize that the yes and can be engaged, and we can have something like conflict in a scene, is have two peas in a pod, like two people.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you and I should do this, and we should be both sides of it. Yeah. So I'm going to state a point of view about something, and you're going to love it with me. We're going to love it together.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go change. And then we're going to be two characters that are like, what is that all about? Like being the inner censor. And then we're going to change. I'm going to go back to the two peas in a pod people who love the idea. But in practice, it would be two people, two people, two people, two people. So no one's alone in their point of view, but the other people are just like the earnest person and the cynic, like that. So let's say we're in a cathedral, and you're going to make a statement about the cathedral. You and I are going to share how we feel about the cathedral, and then we're going to go change, and then we're going to be the cynics about the exact same moment.
Okay, so we're gonna love the idea first. Yes, okay.
Well, yeah, you can lead, and I'll just follow you for the first one. Whatever you feel about the cathedral, that's positive.
Oh my God! You know what, Lisa? I remember the last time we were here for your bachelorette party at this cathedral.
Remember it. I think about it all the time. I reference it. I put it in my journals. It was such a special day. Oh my gosh.
It was so beautiful. I mean, it was so beautiful. I mean, this
so
place.
Spiritual. It was so spiritual.
Oh, I know it was. It really was. And it reminds me of just all the fun times we had before we got married.
It's a spiritual time for us.
It is.
And I'm just, it's so cool that you thought to come here. And I am never going to forget this. Okay, change. Cathedral, right? Cathedral. Duh.
Ugh, why are we back here?
What are we doing here? I mean, we've already been here.
I mean, we did this thing a long time ago. That was like, we don't even talk about 06.
We do not talk about 06. No, we do not.
No. Oh my God. That was scary. I mean, the police were involved, but it was, woof.
Yeah, woof. Why would we be back here? This is so uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. I feel like, the things we did here don't belong in a cathedral.
They do not. That was sexual. Okay, change. I love that. I love the memories of just doing funny, weird things in here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of heart here. Like, we had some funny laugh out loud moments here. And I just think there's something beautiful about coming back to a place where there was a lot of laughter.
A lot of laughter.
It's beautiful because
it's us.
It's us, and God has a sense of humor, right? So we're better to do the laughing.
No place better.
Yeah.
Okay, scene.
Yeah.
I love how we did something nasty.
I don't know what it was. Who knows what we did? It could be not even sexual, everybody. We could have like done a dance party. Who knows?
Right. So that was fun. That was really fun. And I think when people have a partner in like the sabotagey voice, they don't feel so sort of weird about it. So that's a fun way to just be like, yes, we can explore all those dimensions of human behavior and our own inner life.
Yeah.
That we can explore our inner life and we can affirm the things that are wonderful, and we can also play with the things that we struggle with.
Exactly. And you're not alone in it. As you said, I think sometimes the beauty in having that pair or that the peas in a pod, if it goes to that negative places, it can reaffirm that, look, we all have those thoughts. If you're thinking, oh, my idea is not good enough, you know what? Everybody in your improv troupe or in your meeting is probably having very similar doubts where sometimes they doubt their own idea. You are not alone in this. And I think it's okay. We can't let it take over, but if it did drive, wouldn't it be okay if we had a partner to validate that very human experience of self-doubt? And that's okay.
I'm wondering if you do scene work or things like that in the corporate workshops that you do or the
Yeah.
applied improv stuff you do. And if so, do you find that people will open up about their inner editing and so on?
They do. It's really interesting too, because, and there's usually a through line or consistent thing that everybody gets, but I do find that what people say is they open up and they share. And then when we're all in that safe place of everybody has to do it, that level setting, people are more vulnerable. And they're like, yeah, sometimes I do that. But it's fun to be able to admit that and not feel alone in that.
That's right. I do think there are a few times where I've realized that if a person, sometimes people, there are somebody in a group, and I maybe it's because I'm a social worker and a
Yeah.
therapist, so I'm used to it, and people are more used to talking to me that way. However, people do have their professional mask on, so
Mhm.
it is the same in that sense.
It really is. It's like play is that great equalizer. And what I love about it is that when everybody has to play that inner voice, they're having fun with it. They're not alone with it. And there's something interesting because I do find that more often than not, it isn't just one person that will say it. Sometimes that happens, but usually what happens is before the nodding, you'll get two or three comments and everybody feels it. It's multiple people. And what it did is it gave them permission to admit it.
Yes.
And everybody admits it. And everybody's laughing because they know it's true. And so I think it creates that space for people to drop the mask and go, yeah, I do that. Maybe we shouldn't do that so much. Maybe we can laugh at ourselves a little bit more. And
Yes.
I think that discovery of like, wow, other people feel the same way I do is so helpful because we're not alone in it. We're not. And for all the reasons you just said, corporate is like, somebody who spent way too much time in corporate. It's unfortunately how most people show up with the performative kind of mask.
Yes, it's tough to change that norm in that world, but it honestly in healthcare it's very similar. It's very
Yeah.
similar. There's work to be done. There's a hierarchy and there's a demand to stay in your
Yes.
lane.
Yeah.
Where we're talking about ways in which we're all human. Let's talk about keeping it human and how I love that name. And
Hmm.
I think I understand your concept, but let's hear from you about it.
Yeah. So a lot of the work I do, keeping it human is really, I started this company 15 years ago. I can't believe it's 15 years, but it really was about all the ways that we perform, that we kind of perform. And I don't mean like improv performance. I just, as human beings, as leaders, I think we mask up and we end up kind of performing what I call leadership theater. And it's not helpful to anybody. And I think it's really about helping leaders get to that place where we can drop some of that. And that's where teams build trust, teams do better work, we collaborate more. I recognize it's not going to be perfect, but a little bit of humanity can go a long way in changing team dynamics. So, yeah.
That's a great name for a company, keeping it human. And it's a very needed service that you're doing. Is there anything we didn't talk about here that you want to spend any time on that we didn't get at?
No, I think we got at it really great. It was so much fun because I think we can talk about it, but until we play the games, it really doesn't come to life. So I think we did a great job. I think it was fun. I would just say, really yes-anding yourself is so important because it really translates to all areas of life and not just improv. Improv is, as Jude and I both believe, it's the way into examining how maybe we show up and some of our habits. But really ask yourself, where am I not yes-anding myself in my life? And that does not mean not yes-anding other people. but we have to make sure that we are getting what we need. And sometimes we just don't do that. And we can honor everybody and ourselves at the same time. And I think Yes And is about that. It's important to ask where maybe you're not yes anding yourself and where you could do a better job at that.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Yeah.
Where else can people find you besides
keepingithuman.com? Yes.
It'll be in the show notes, but is there anything else, any other places you want people to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn, although LinkedIn's gotten very performative lately, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, you can find me at Keeping It Human all the places. So yeah.
We'll have all those links in the show notes, everybody, so you can find Kathy's information and you can follow where she's performing. She's a comedian. She performs all the time. So you guys, if you're in California, follow Kathy on Instagram and you can see where she's doing shows. And of course, you could also get her to come and do a workshop at your company or your group. This has been a delight. Thank you so much for being part of this Kathy Klotz-Guest.
Thank you, Jude. This was so much fun. I love playing with you. And I love all your activities. And I just think it's a great way to just bring this stuff to life. So thank you for making this podcast happen.
Thank you, Kathy. Bye.
That's it for this episode of Improv in Real Life. For more info about our guest and other resources, you can visit our show notes. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow or subscribe wherever you listen. And if you're feeling extra generous, write us a review or share with a friend. You can also find us on Instagram at lifestage_inc. And if you want to dive deeper into these concepts, please connect with me on Substack at Jude Treder-Wolff.
To be continued, to be continued, to be continued.
We need each other now more than ever. We need creativity more than ever. I hope these games and ideas inspire you in some way, and if they do, keep it going. I will too. See you next time.